Welcome into this Five Clubs conversation. I'm Gary Williams. 2022, arguably the most turbulent year in men's professional golf that we have ever seen, certainly in the modern age. Well, guess what? It's 23. What's going to happen? Well, two people whose opinion I greatly respect are going to join me, give me their perspective on what's going to happen. The biggest names, the changes to the schedule. It's a Ryder Cup year. We're going to talk about all of it with Taylor Zarzour and Johnson Wagner coming up next. Well, gentlemen, it's not too late in the year. It's Happy New Year. Obligatory.
Yeah.
How are you both doing?
Happy New Year to you too.
Yes, and you know what's nice? We look at him. He's already been through makeup. He's making the big pivot. He still's going to play some competitive golf, but golf gas baggery is his future. He's going to do more on Golf Channel. He's doing PGA Tour Live. First of all, I know I can speak for him on this. We're very happy for you.
I'm very happy, and I know you both have played a big role in what's going on with my career right now, and it's really exciting to have a career path maybe going upward as opposed to going downward like my golf game has been the last few years.
As an encourager of this the last couple of years, I wanted to make it clear I wasn't encouraging him to step away from golf. It wasn't like any thing towards his current ability on the course. Certainly he's taken a lot of my money, but I am very excited about what's going to happen with his broadcasting career.
I am too. The last time you were in here, we were talking about different things and maybe a role with the tour, but important voices, thoughtful voices, they're necessary to be heard. Mm-hmm. Glad yours is going to be heard as it relates to talking about the professional game primarily. Look, guys, there are a million things we can talk about. Let's start broad here. Johnson, let me start with you, and we'll just chew on this for as long as we want to go here on a lot of stuff. What is the biggest story in your opinion going into this year?
Well, just recently with the Masters announcing that those live players are going to be playing in the Masters, I think it was a good decision by the Masters, and I heard Rich Lerner talking about it that day on Golf Channel, said something to the effect of the Masters tournament didn't want the 2023 Masters to be about who's not there. They want it to be about the tournament and what's going to happen that week. And I think had they excluded those players, it would have been a controversy. The whole theme of the week before golf started would have been, where's Phil, where's Sergio, where are these 6 past champions that are currently members of the LIV Golf Tour? And now the focus can be on, how are the PGA Tour players and the players not on LIV going to handle this, and who's going to rise to the top?
Yeah, once we get to that event, I think we'll be talking about that event instead of who's not playing in the event. And I'm sure that was a huge factor in why Augusta National made the decision they did, which I applaud, by the way. The biggest thing that I'm interested in is the elevated events in 2023. We've been talking about these ideas for years. I was talking about it before LIV Golf ever was even thought of. Wondering, do we need to have a situation where all the best players in the world play in the same events more than just in the major championships and maybe in the FedEx Cup playoffs? And here we are. We're going to get 17, 18, or 19 of the top 20 players in the world playing more than a dozen times a year. And I think that's great for the fan. I do worry a bit about the non-elevated events and how those shake out, what the impact is, for the tournament in San Diego. The Farmers Insurance has been a huge tournament on tour for so long. What's that tournament going to look like at the end of January? I'm concerned to see what the field's going to be like this year. But I do think this is necessary, that the best players in the world are playing more frequently with each other. We get that in every other sport.
The impetus for why this is happening, look, you can attribute as much as you want or as little as you want to LIV, but it's a factor. And so I'm with you. Like, I've always wanted the best players to congregate as much as possible, and they will do so more this year, but they're also going to do it simultaneously at a time that some of the better players are playing LIV. So to me, when I look at the year, it's impossible for us to not continue this conversation of where they are they getting points, when will they get points? Like, I feel like the biggest story is, will there be a cleanse to whatever degree at some point in 23? Do you think there will be?
A full cleanse this year, no, there will not be. I don't see any. I don't think the lawsuit with the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour is going to be resolved until at the earliest the fall. So until that lawsuit goes away or is resolved, there's no chance of any sort of homogenous relationship there. And to your point, like, the only players I'm going to miss on tour are maybe Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson. Like, the fact of the matter is, Bubba's a little past his prime. Schwartzel, Louis. I'm going to miss Louis Oosthuizen as well, playing those events. But
you won't miss DeChambeau. You won't miss Koepka.
Did you miss them last year?
Not last year. But are we really ready to just push them aside and say, well, they're never going to be?
And it's hard to argue with what the decision they made, the millions of dollars that they decided to take. So I'm not scrutinizing their decision, but I'm wondering, Gary, was there ever a time during a tournament in 2022 where you thought, man, I wish Brooks Koepka was here today?
No, but I think like the idea that we're ready to move on, like they can never be great again. I think he's been compromised physically for a couple of years. Can he be completely right again? I don't know that. But like Bryson DeChambeau was on the verge of being a revolutionary type of player, and like we're ready to say like he was of no value. Like 18 months ago, he was one of the most important commodities on tour.
And I'm not arguing he wasn't of value. I think he was of tremendous value.
Yeah.
I think that the fan is more interested in the actual event than they are a specific player, even if that player brought a tremendous amount of intrigue because of the way that Bryson plays the game. I just think that ultimately all of us that are consuming this right now are going to be more interested in watching the PGA Tour because that's what we've been doing for generations. And as long as Live Golf doesn't really have a reputable outlet to show us their event, I just don't think that there's going to be tremendous interest. I totally agree with you, though. I think that it's still going to be 2023 is not going to give us any finality.
Not at all. And I mean, these guys signed 3-year deals. I think we're years away from having any sort of resolution. And back to Bryson DeChambeau. To your point, I had a phone call with him about a year and a half ago. I was on the board at the time, and I was trying to talk him out of this decision to go to Live. And I'm like, look, man, you are changing the game to a scale that we haven't seen since Tiger Woods. I mean, all the great players, Rory's kind of stepped up that role now, but Bryson did things so differently. He made it a point to get as big and as long as he could. He's coming off the heels of his first major championship, and that's the guy that surprised me the most. He's young, he's not married, doesn't have kids, he's got more money than he knows what to do with. For him to take that kind of money and basically throw away any legacy that he probably could have had that's what bothers me about that situation.
Here's what's interesting about the year, and again, I'm with you that the lion's share of the guys who made that choice, there's not mass appeal, and how much tread they have left is what it is. But Cam Smith is still the third-ranked player in the world, and we can talk about a handful of others. My point is this: the majors, as much as we will get the best players who are still PGA Tour players, which are overwhelmingly the best players in the world, not just because of world ranking, form and everything. Those major weeks, to me, they were already so big, but now to bring everybody together, and let me just paint a scenario. If Cam Smith is in the final group on Sunday at Augusta National with Rory McIlroy, are you joking?
It's going to feel like a Ryder Cup. I mean, it's very similar where you're going to draw lines, where you're picking one side. I will say that, the weekend at the U.S. Open at Brookline, after the Live golfers, some of them had already gone. And then by the time we got to the Open Championship, St. Andrews, where just about all of them, minus Cam Smith, had already gone, it did feel very different than any other tournament because you knew this was unique, where you're going to have, this is the only chance to see all of the best players in the world playing together. I think you're right. I think the majors in 2023 will feel even bigger because of that extra element. And I think it's only realistic to expect that a Live golfer is going to have a chance, if not win, a major championship.
Absolutely. And one thing the tour's talked about for years is they relate our sport to tennis. It's an individual sport. And one thing tennis has going is that it is completely a major-centric sport. And so now you look at the PGA Tour, to piggyback on you, if golf becomes a major-centric sport where that's the only place you get all the best players because you've got Live, you've got the PGA Tour, and I think the tour's done a good job with their elevated events being like, okay, we realize the majors are going to be big next year, having these Live people there. What are we going to do to make sure that we still have our product at the highest of levels?
Yeah, the tiering, though, is interesting, and it's something you said a couple of minutes ago. You worry about the lesser events. I think that was the word you used. Okay.
Non-elevated.
Okay, and look, we've thought that for a while. Like, it was the challenge was the non-Tiger weeks.
Right.
It's like, guys, it doesn't, and that was how significant and what a 100-year flood he was. Now these designated events are great. They're great that these guys are obligated to play all these weeks. My God, like, look at the month of July. you've got the event that's co-sanctioned on the DP World Tour, which is great that the Scottish Open is what it is, and that fortnight with that and the Open Championship will be terrific. But July domestically is a wasteland.
Yeah, it's going to have to be fixed in the years to come because of what you're saying. It's almost become a de facto off season for the best players where they take this little mini break. But I'm fascinated to hear what he has to say about this because he's a past champion of the event next week, the Sony Open in Hawaii. 2 weeks from now, the Amex in Palm Springs. It looks like a lot of the best players have decided this is one of the 3 non-elevated events. Let's get together and let's go play.
They're playing Amex or
Sony? Amex, in 2 weeks. But next week at Sony, that's not the case, and it's going to feel somewhat like a Corn Ferry Tour event.
And that's the problem. Look at Honda Classic. The Honda's been one of the best events on tour for a long time, especially when it moved to PGA National. And then how long after they announced these elevated events did Honda, the longest running sponsor on the PGA Tour, be like, you didn't elevate us, we're gone. And I think you're going to see that more and more. Sony's another longtime sponsor, and they've struggled to get fields, even with guys playing. Century's elevated, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So you've got all these guys over there, and you're going to probably see them just fly home for a week and then go play Amex, and then Sony, which is a great tournament at a great old golf course. Now there's guys like Justin Thomas who are past champions that'll probably still play, but why wouldn't you take the opportunity to have 2 weeks in Hawaii? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but then the other thing is, am I going to play 3 weeks in a row to start the year? It's great to get the designation of that type of status. Wells Fargo, you guys are both proud members of Quail Hollow. I'm thrilled that it's a designated event, but we already know that that's not, you don't have that in perpetuity. So it's great for 23. My God, can you imagine, like, wait a second, we're getting relegated in 24? Look, these are challenging things.
And to go back to July and the Tour, July's been a wasteland on the PGA Tour for a number of years. It's always been about the Open Championship, coming off the U.S. Open Championship. You've got the John Deere, which is an incredible event put on by one of the coolest cities. That town just comes out for that event. But 3M, and that may be in August, but 3M, Rocket Mortgage, they have had no fields the entire time they've been sponsors of these events. And then you look to the fall, and how long are these sponsors? I know they're under contract for a few years, but the Tour has such a small bucket of potential sponsors, and the way the Tour kind of pushes them to raise purses all the time and then not guaranteeing them fields, I think you're going to see that bucket of potential sponsors get smaller and smaller, and who knows what 24 season is going to look like. And I've kind of thought for years that there was going to be a FedEx Tour, and then the Nationwide Tour or Corn Ferry Tour and PGA Tour would kind of meld and have this secondary tour with $3-4 million purses, and then everybody climbs up to the FedEx Tour, which is a 22-week schedule, which is basically what they've created now.
Is that something that's...
I like it.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I think that way you know the difference between the two. And I'll never forget a few years ago, as he was taking more of my money, we were talking about this, and I said, man, we've got to get all the best players in the same place playing more often. And he said, yeah, but the other events, those events are going to be ruined if that happens. I do think that if you differentiated between the two, I think that might be a healthier thing for all parts of professional golf moving forward, especially if the purse sizes stayed about relatively the same size.
But the idea of a FedEx Tour, you would want 78-player fields, right? You would want the big guys would want no-cut events, and then you run into those world ranking problems. Why LIV isn't getting the world rankings and why the points would be smaller. So there may be a world ranking thing to go along with that. But 14, 15 PGA Tour events, FedEx Tour events, plus the majors and the players, you got a 21, 22-week schedule, and then you've got a 35-week PGA Tour schedule, and I don't know, 35 guys keep their card, and it kind of operates like a well-oiled machine.
The protectors of the game, also known as Gary Williams, would hate the no-cut events.
Yeah, well,
the
totally hate them. They're soft.
Fine, then 120-man fields. But you couldn't have 156 full fields, maybe a couple in the summer, and then eligibility, I think it's coming in the next 5 years. I think we'll see an elevated FedEx Cup Tour and the Corn Ferry and PGA Tour kind of melding together.
Look, when they created the World Golf Championship Series, I thought it was great. Again, it was a way to create the impetus for the best players to be motivated to play. And then it was like, well, we've got to just make it a no-cut event. Are you kidding? Championship golf at the highest level has a cut.
Tiger's record's going down, man.
Yes, you just only have to make about a dozen a year. And just here's the other thing though about what you're saying, and I would totally accept that. They're in the infancy of that new TV deal. If I am a network partner, you're going to be, wait a second, I paid X, and now half of what I'm getting in my inventory is in the absence of Spieth, Thomas, Rahm, Rory. Really? They're not going to accept that.
But you'll see those guys play the Byron Nelson. You'll see Scheffler, all the Dallas guys. They'll support. They'll support the Byron Nelson. And then in other areas, all the Florida guys, they'll probably still support the Honda and the Valspar.
But they haven't. These guys are sleeping 10 minutes from PGA National, and they won't roll out of bed across the street to play that event.
That would be my response to you. Is they're already not playing those events. So I'm really interested to see, maybe most interested in 2023, to see what the non-elevated events look like and if they feel weaker than they already are.
Yeah.
If we get to, I think San Diego is one that I'm concerned about because it typically had a strong
Loaded.
field.
Yeah.
And now it's not an elevated event, at least this year, I worry that its field is going to be compromised. But if you're the Honda Classic, to your point, with a bunch of guys that live down the street that already aren't playing, is it going to feel any different? Probably not.
Probably not. Now, as a vested veteran, I don't know how you feel about giving employment to untested commodities, and I'm talking about PGA Tour U, and the alterations they've made to that, to now give the guy who's number one, to give him a PGA Tour card. I'm all for it. I think they should do more of it. Those are your future assets. And it's similar to saying, well, look, here's your bonus pool for rookies in the NBA. You're a lottery pick. You're picked in the top 10 in the NFL draft. I have no problem with it. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it. I think when it first came out, we were all very upset because we went through Q School. I went to the final stage of Q School when it was 6 rounds, 5 different times. I busted my butt to get through the Korn Ferry Tour and get my job, and now for a guy to just get handed a spot. But you look at a guy, and I guess you have to stay 4 years, and you have to complete your eligibility in college to receive that. So that keeps a guy in school longer, which is good. And the guys like Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth that come out early, they're going to get out there anyway. But I'm okay with it. And what the tour's done that I really like is the guarantee for rookies and the guarantee for all members that are inside that rookie category of getting $500,000 a year. And then from my perspective, I was last man in the field in Bermuda just this last fall, and it was expensive to get over there. I had to pay a caddy. I got there Wednesday, had a crazy hotel bill, and now for members that aren't in the upper category,
stipend.
I got a $5,000 stipend, which paid for my trip, and it gave me incentive to go over there and play and feel like, okay, I'm not going to be out $5,000 for traveling over here. I'm actually going to break even, which I think that those two changes they've made to that policy have been great, and we've been kind of begging for that for a long time.
I'm shocked that you didn't have some friends who have a house in Paget Parish.
I am
that
too.
You could have stayed in for the week. The fact that you had a hotel bill is shocking.
It was actually a nice little B&B. It was quite incredible. I'll stay there every year going forward.
It was the debut of the Budweiser hat too, which a few years ago, which I love, and everybody in Charlotte loves. And I certainly respect what he said. You know, if you're in his position or anybody else's position like him on the PGA Tour, you can understand how you would feel if you've battled your heart out to get to this position and you have to fight to stay on the PGA Tour. All of a sudden you're giving, in essence, a battleground promotion to the best college players. But I think the fans will enjoy this. I think the fans will have an easier time identifying with the best players in college golf as they make this transition. And you give the fans some motivation to cheer for some guys to see, okay, these guys have an opportunity to play on the PGA Tour as a huge advocate of college golf and think that it's growing and growing and growing. I think this is only going to help it do that even more.
When you look at a guy like Davis Riley, who got out of college, went to Q School, got his Korn Ferry card, COVID hits, he's got to spend 2 years on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then he comes out on the PGA Tour and has a killer year. And to hold it, basically he was held back 2 years of the opportunity to go straight from college to the PGA Tour. And so a guy like Davis Riley, we were talking about Caleb Surratt earlier before the show started, like guys like next generation talent to be. And they still have to keep their card. I mean, you're going to have guys that get that card, don't keep it, and they're going to go back to the Korn Ferry Tour, but give them a crack at it. I mean, I've warmed up to the PGA Tour U, and the Korn Ferry status goes so deep. So giving those top 10 guys a half a year to play the Korn Ferry Tour, give them a chance.
Yeah, Golf Channel does such a great job, I think, of showcasing that throughout the year. Shameless plugs, SiriusXM, SEC Network. We do the SEC tournament every year in Sea Island, and this is something we're going to be paying attention to when we broadcast the SEC tournament moving forward.
These kids are ready to play earlier than my generation ever was. They are ready to come out of college and go win. On
There's
PGA
no
Tour.
doubt. The other thing, and I think one of the reasons they're ready, is that they're getting acclimated to things that they usually had to wait to not only get to professional golf, but to actually contend to be seen hitting a live golf shot on television. The proliferation of college tournaments on Golf Channel has made these kids, they have some name recognition. They actually have value before they get there, whereas 20 years ago, with the exception of the Justin Leonards and the Ryan Moores and the Phil Mickelsons, and obviously Tiger, you didn't know who these guys were. Everyone knows who Gordon Sargent is.
And that was only through the USGA events, most
Exactly.
notably the US Amateur. Now you get through college events that are being broadcast at East Lake or at Seminole or Sea Island. Exactly. I mean, the fact that now that these are now being broadcast, I think is huge for the overall health of the game.
Yeah. Last thing, you mentioned Q School. Look, as an observer like he is, I loved it, and I love the fact that it's coming back in a modest degree, because to me, that's the essence of professional golf. It's not guys in G5s and doing Monday outings for 150K. It's literally living and dying and hyperventilating and hitting shots like Charlie Reimer did on the roof of a clubhouse with one-shot cushion trying to get your card. I love the fact that that's coming back.
Yeah, I wish it was more spots. I think it's only 5 spots,
Yeah.
but it may grow to that. But with the European Tour getting spots, they're kind of trying to protect the membership of the tour. But 5 spots, I'll go back to Q School next year with 5 spots. Why not? I mean, maybe I have to go to second stage. I don't really love that. But
You wait until how much he enjoys this Cush TV life.
There's no doubt.
He's not going back.
No,
he's going to have a blast. He's going to be too good at this. He's going to have too much fun to go back and put himself through the most stress. More stressful than trying to win a tournament?
My Q School career went my first year. I had my whole family there. I was out in Palm Springs. We had a house. It was fun. I was just happy to be there. And then fast forward to my 4th year, I was traveling in an RV, and I'm like, honey, my wife, you're not coming. Nobody's coming. I don't want to see anybody. I would go crawl back in my RV and just like curl into a ball every night. And I think I was in maybe 15th place going into the final round, shot 78, missed by 3 or 4. And like it was the worst feeling I've ever had in professional golf. It was
But it also is why it's riveting. To his
Totally.
point. Yeah.
Totally. Last thing with respect to tour schedule, the FedEx Cup playoffs, are you guys both happy, content with the current construct of what the FedEx Cup playoffs are?
There's only 70 guys making it this year, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have more guys have the opportunity, but then the Tour Championship's goofy the way it is, but I think come Sunday of the Tour Championship, it's one leaderboard. There's not a lot of confusion on how it's going. I think it's working. I think they're always trying to tweak it, but it could get better, but it's not terrible.
I love East Lake. I love what it's done for the community. I love the Southern Company. I love Coca-Cola.
Oh, look at this long disclaimer.
But I mean, and I understand why all those things are in place for years to come. But I think you know where I'm going with this. I would love to see it move around to some of the greatest greatest golf courses in the United States. Some that maybe can't traditionally host a full field event.
Exactly.
It would be great to see if you just go through the Golf Digest rankings.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, we're going to Pine Valley, or we're going to Cypress, or we're going, to the best courses. I know some of them may be a little more challenging than others, but it would be nice to go check off some of those boxes. But I get why that can't happen, because again, if you're a big sponsor, you want to go play where the golf tournament has always been.
Yeah, I know that you're like, PV's not doing that. Probably not.
They're not
but
doing
not
that,
far
but
down that list.
Yeah.
Seriously, I really think that the way that memberships and clubs and benevolent dictators feel a sense of, we cannot make this a forbidden city. We have a sense of we've got to give some level of access. Look, and Seminole's done a great job at that. And Jimmy Dunn has, the college golf tournament at Seminole.
That's great.
There's no reason to believe that if you went to some of the best clubs in America and said, on a once every 4-year basis, or just a one-off, do you want the top 30 players in the world to come to your place at the end of August? And hypothetically, Chicago Golf Club. Why couldn't that happen?
We've talked about that place before.
Seriously, I think that all 3 of the playoff events should have a mini rotation, all of them. And why the first event has abandoned the Northeast Corridor it's wrong.
Well, FedEx.
But you know why?
I know.
I mean,
I know why.
FedEx has put so much money into the PGA Tour that they deserve to have that first event. They moved them to the World Golf Championship, and then now the first playoff event. I love that one. But then The second one, which was typically in Chicago, but it was nice to have New York, Chicago. It was nice to have New York, Boston, Chicago,
Right.
Atlanta, and you're having the biggest markets. But think about like LA Country Club hosting the Tour Championship, and that's going to be a good U.S. Open this year.
It'll
by
be
the way.
awesome.
But I agree. There should be more. TPC Southwind's a good regular PGA Tour event, but for the playoffs, you want to have a course that's a little more elevated.
You're fighting a lot of things at that time of the year. The fatigue of how much is enough. The major championship season is over. We're getting ready to listen to him, call South Carolina Vanderbilt from Vanderbilt Stadium in Dudley Field. There's no atmosphere quite like it. I mean,
What about Notre Dame, South Carolina? Come on.
No, that was excellent.
Okay, thank you.
You had one of the better bowl games of the year. Well deserved. I just think that there can be some imagination. I understand the sensitivity to sponsorship, but you have to think pragmatically about where's the appeal beyond just seeing the top players, of which we've seen more of them this year than we have in years. So I think that that's something to look at.
But the Western Golf Association that runs the BMW, they've done a better job. They played Delaware Country Club this last year. Didn't they play
Baltimore
Valley. Before that?
Did they play Caves one year?
Yeah, they played Caves.
And I mean, they've done a good job moving their event, which is typically a Chicago-based thing.
Yeah.
They had it in Denver. They've given us a few different options.
I love the mini Rota idea, not just in the FedEx Cup playoffs.
All of them.
I like it throughout the year.
I agree.
But I don't. Again, when you get protective, if you're a sponsor, you're going to want it where you have had it traditionally for a long time, which is why the FedEx Cup starts at TPC Southwind in Memphis. And by the way, the last few years, I thought the event has been better than it's ever been before. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, when Sepp Straka was battling Will Zalatoris to win that tournament, I didn't think at all about who wasn't playing in that event. I didn't think about Cam Smith or Bryson DeChambeau or Brooks Koepka. I thought about a thrilling finish on the PGA Tour in the first round of the playoffs. So hopefully we continue to get that.
Yeah, and look, that event, it all comes down to who's right there at the end, and it threaded the needle. And you had one guy who was so close in so many big events, major championships. It worked, and most times
How did
it
Sepp
does.
not hit land though? I will never understand that.
No, it's one of the more confounding shots.
It's a tough tee shot, by the way.
Aim 50 yards left.
Yeah, I caddied at that place one year for a buddy of mine who played in the Pro-Am, and we went there with a list of like 20 guys, and he got the last pick, which is no pick. It was Todd Fisher. We went off last in the afternoon on Wednesday. It was about 112 degrees.
Oof.
I honestly, I wanted to get a card at the turn.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Last thing about, you mentioned the number, 125 was too many. 125 is employment. 125 is not a playoff team. You know what I mean? There's got to be a distinction between who keeps their job and who goes to the playoffs. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think that I'd be okay with that. Yeah. Like he's saying, is 70 the right number? I don't know. Maybe do we need a bigger number, and then you cut it down to 50, and then you go down to 30. Maybe it's 150-30. Just thinking out loud right now. But yeah, I think that's probably true. I do enjoy what the Wyndham Championship has given us each year because
it's got an identity.
It does, and I think we're as interested, if not more interested, in who's number 125. A personal friend of mine, they came on the air a few years ago on CBS, and Jim Nantz says Josh Teeter has this putt to stay on the PGA Tour. And he didn't make it. But and Josh is a friend of mine, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is for his employment next year. And so I do love that component of the tournament.
It'll be interesting to see how, because 70 guys being exempt, the fall is going to play out for who's. I mean, you got to fill the fields on the PGA Tour. So how is 71 to 150 going to work? How is that going to happen next fall? And what priority does 71 have going forward? I mean, is 71 basically going to be a fully exempt card? I don't know how that, and I think a lot of the players on the PGA Tour that I've talked to lately, my good friend Ryan Armour, they are so confused as to how they keep their job next year if they're not inside the top 70. Do they have to go back to Q School? I mean, maybe that's a way to bump up the Q School numbers, is to maybe it's 70 and then Q School's got 25 spots again, but I think there's a lot of questions about how the 2024 priority season is going to start.
Yeah, by the way, Wyndham is one of your main stops on your Pro-Am tours, so I know you're loyal to it. No, as far as the fall, I asked this question of Rory at the CJ Cup, what should the fall look like? And he said football. And I totally agree, but if the audience is already a niche audience, why not cater to that and make it about employment? Right. Make the compelling stories the guys who are not seen on television throughout the course of the year, And it is the fighting for employment.
Don't you think that's what's going to happen?
I do.
Like a Korn Ferry Finals, sort of 4-event series. You get the top from the Korn Ferry Tour, the 71 to whatever on the PGA Tour, and they play a 4 or 5 event series.
Elevating and relegating.
Now, I don't know if. Now, the next question would be, I don't know if Napa and Houston and those tournaments are going to sign up for that.
Well, I know after having conversations with tournament director in Houston, they are not really wanting to be a part of some fall series event. They've got a lot of sponsorship dollars. Sure. Houston Open's been around a long time. Yep. And I think there's talk of them moving back into a spring date. They've got a fabulous golf course, and hopefully that'll happen. But Sanderson Farms, I know we'll see Island maybe, but I just, who knows?
I do love the idea, Gary. I just wonder if those are the places they go.
No question. You're right about Houston. Like Jim Crane and the efforts they made, the Houston Astro Golf Association.
It's right there in the heart of the city too, which is great.
It's a great story. All right, let's transition. Let's start with Tiger and go ahead and tackle this, because a lot of it is just hands up. What will 23, best case scenario is what?
Best case scenario is he plays 5 or 6 tournaments before December. I'm not going to count December, because December, I think, is the season of Tiger, which is great, by the way. I think all of us have really enjoyed how he's all of a sudden, turned December into a month where we get to see him and get to see Charlie.
Tiger Clause. It's the 12 days of Tiger.
Which is great, and I assume we'll still get that, given some good health in the future. But I would say best case scenario, Gary, is we see him 5 or 6 times. And when I say 5 or 6 times, that would include like Riviera, and it would include maybe the Memorial, tournaments that he's really enjoyed in the past, on top of the majors. Realistically, I think we see him in 2 or 3 majors. We saw him last year go to the Open Championship, and that was such a marker for him. He ended up playing 2 majors before that. But I don't think I'd be a little surprised if he went to England. I don't think that the 151st Open Championship carries as much significance for him as this past year did at St. Andrews.
But it's at Hoylake. It's at Hoylake where he was the first major he won after his dad died, and that was a big week for him. And I just think he loves the Open.
If the travel is as hard as it's been for him, I just think that might be a place that he wouldn't end up going. Like this past year, he ended up going to the PGA Championship in Tulsa, and he didn't play the U.S. Open at Brookline.
Right.
I would bet he would play the U.S. Open this year in a city that he grew up in, right down the street from Los Angeles Country Club.
I'm with you.
I would think he would go there. I wouldn't think he'd be as inclined to go to Rochester and play the PGA Championship
in
May and freeze as he is. I'm excited to go, by the way, but as he would go to the LA Country Club. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think that ultimately he'll play 2 or 3 majors, and if we get anything other than that, I think it's gravy.
I've had friends and debates about Tiger for years, and everybody wants to count him out, right? He's never going to win again. He's never going to play again. Even going back to 2008 when he and his wife, all that stuff came out, and he continues to come back. I've learned that I will never doubt anything he does. Best case is Tiger wins a major this year. I think that's highly unlikely. I wouldn't place money on that in Vegas, but I will never count that guy out. He has done superhuman things his entire career, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went out and won the Masters.
Gosh, the golf swing looks so good in December.
I mean, I would be surprised, not shocked, I guess is the better word.
I'd be dumbstruck. I'd be look, the 19 thing was amazing. It was amazing.
But he had form going in.
There was not only form, there was like 18 months of building.
Right.
Go back to 18 and the things that he was clicking off.
He made the Tour Championship.
Right. And first of all, he won the Tour Championship in 2018. He was the guy who was the last line of defense for Brooks Koepka in the PGA in 2018. He beat Rory in the match play 2 weeks before Masters Week to give him like all these little things that he was fortifying
and don't forget
his
he was
mind.
the best player at Royal Melbourne, and he sat out a couple sessions.
Correct.
He was unstoppable in Australia.
He was artistic in doing that. Not to mention he did, and I talked to Tommy Fleetwood who played with him. He played with him in Paris right after he had won the Tour Championship, and he was shot. He was shot that next week, and he had nothing. And Tommy's like, that was really, that was not what I was hoping for because I'd never had that experience. And then he played with him at Zozo, and he's like, and after the 36 holes of the first 2 rounds, he went to shake his hand, and he said, That was amazing. And Tiger's response was, you like that? Like, that was full flight. I don't know how, he can't build to anything remotely close to that.
That to me is the big point. So this past year, he couldn't build at all.
Yeah.
And his great caddy, Joe LaCava, was saying, we got to get him out there more. We got to get him chipping and putting. And the answer was, Joe, how do you get him out there more if he can't stand and walk to get out there more? But if you saw in December, his chipping and putting was significantly better than what it was during the major championships. And he told people that were on the golf course at the Ritz-Carlton, including some of our staff, that he was able to chip and putt more. It wasn't as painful. The plantar fasciitis is clearly an issue, and that has to clear up. And anybody that's gone through that knows that's something that stays with you for months. So this is a huge if. But if he's able to chip and putt, which he couldn't do last year and still made 2 cuts in major championships, I think that's going to be the big question in 2023. If he can do that, I'm with Johnson. I don't count this guy out.
It would
ever.
be nice to see him get a warm-up start before the Masters. Bay Hill's a pretty easy walk. I mean, is there any chance he goes and plays the Players? Or that's also an easy walk. Is there any chance he goes and plays a week before the Masters? That's the question. If he can play one time, then we may have something.
Yeah, I'm with you, but if you asked me, will he win again or will he not? The answer is no, he's not.
But people were saying that 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I wasn't.
I know.
I wasn't.
He's never going to win a tournament again?
No. This is different. Look, I think 20 years from now, him making cuts at majors after that accident, that is a screenplay. The severity of what he has done to that lower leg is beyond the conversation we can have here.
Well,
right
the way
now.
he talked at the Hero about keeping the limb was eye-opening, and the nerve damage that's been done in that ankle certainly is significant and irreparable, probably.
Yeah.
But as long as that leg is attached, and it sounds a crazy thing to start a preface with, as long as that leg is attached. But it's the truth. As long as that leg is attached, you give this guy 5-6 more years. If Phil Mickelson can win at Kiowa out of nowhere, Tiger Woods at 54 years old, I'll take him somewhere if the guy still can stand up.
I get all of that, but we are like the fusing of the back is like what? Like what? He went in because what? He had a little back discomfort. He had his back fused twice.
And still won the Masters, Gary.
I get it. I just you cannot at some point.
You give me one man in the world right now to hit a 4-iron, I'm still taking him.
I totally agree, but over the course of 4 rounds of championship golf, there's nothing I want more than to be wrong. I don't think I'm going to be wrong. I think you guys are going to be wrong. I hope you are.
And I'm speaking from a fan's perspective. I love Tiger Woods so much. I mean, he's only 4 or 5 years older than me, and
it's amazing.
We all idolized him, and I just don't want to. I don't want to admit that it's over, but
yeah, I don't want to either. But the actuary tables of everything have me to where I can say it pretty comfortably that he's not winning again.
And by the way, just as an aside, he used to tell stories of playing practice rounds with him and just talking shop with Tiger Woods, who would rather talk shop than anything else, by the way. Is one of the coolest things to witness, to watch a couple of guys around Tiger in a practice round, which you've done, or just the media that's following him. He loves to do that with those guys too. He doesn't like to talk about any of those other things, but just watching that guy's passion for his craft, I think there's one more somewhere.
Okay. Listen, I hope you're both right. Last thing about him, will he be in Rome wearing a team uniform in some capacity?
And I thought he was going to be in Charlotte for the President's Cup this year. I was a little, not disappointed, I was just sad that he wasn't here, but I don't know, that's a long way away. I would think more likely he'll be the next captain and home soil. Is that Bethpage?
It is. Yeah. It's Bethpage, which was marked for Phil before all the live golf happened, and now maybe it's marked for Tiger. He has told insiders that are a part of these teams, he feels that if he isn't the captain or he isn't playing and or the captain, he feels he's a distraction. And that's why he doesn't show up. He didn't come to Whistling Straits.
Why was he at Hazeltine?
And it's why he didn't come to President's Cup. I think that, I guess, in the last couple of years with what's happened, he feels like he's more of a distraction than he would have been then.
Fair.
So that is the reason why he hasn't been, but he still has been incredibly connected to the team. I would probably predict that he would be at his home in Florida, connected to the team, watching the Ryder Cup. But that, I don't want to get too off course here. that is the event in sports I'm most excited for in 2023. I would love to have him there in some capacity. It would only make that event even more special.
I think he's going to be there. I do. I think that I was surprised too that he wasn't at Quail, because he really is. I know that there are people who are cynical saying, you know, I think he's really not that connected. No, I think he's totally connected. I think he's immersed in something I never thought we would see this side of him. And I think, you know, time softens everybody, but his willingness to share thought and to be a part of a team component of which he was not wired to be that. He was predatorial. It was extinguish you and me ascend. I think he's going to be there. I think he's going to be a part of Zach's team. I do. Not as a player. Yeah. Not as a player. I think he's going to be there.
We know that. You made that clear. He's not making that team.
No, it doesn't mean that, like, would I be surprised if he made the cut at the Masters? Absolutely not. But winning. I
think if he got himself in contention at the Masters, adrenaline would take over for that weekend.
No, I was there every step with him in 19, and guys literally were falling off that leaderboard like clockwork.
Right.
It was extraordinary to watch it.
If you think you've heard roars like 86 and 19, you wait for 26 or 29 or 32 or whenever. If that guy is in contention in the weekend at Augusta National, it'll be.
But he's always said he doesn't want to play golf if he doesn't have a chance to win. So he's not going. I don't think he's going to be some ceremonial player and play into his 50s at the Masters if he doesn't think he has a legitimate chance of winning.
Correct.
Jack said that for a long time.
He did, and then at 58, all of a sudden you come on the air on Sunday and he's on the front page of the board. I'm telling you, if 54...
Jack never missed a major from 62 to 80. He never got hurt.
Give me one or two more chances for Tiger in contention. Hey, I'm a dreamer. So is he, by the way.
He will play past 50 because they all do. Because relevancy is a hell of an elixir in life.
Yeah.
And you know, for him and with his children, it's not a question of needing the adulation. It's nice. I think he will play competitive golf after.
And by the way, Charlie caddying for him.
Ooh,
yes.
How about that? That'd be good.
Now you guys think he's going to win with Charlie on the bag.
Oh my gosh! And by the way, I'm not only saying the Masters though. I mean, is there a chance at LA Country Club or at a future major championship? Chances are, if he does win again, it will be a major championship because those are going to be about the only events he plays.
And for a guy like that, those are the easiest tournaments to win because the group of people that can actually mentally win one of those events is small. Think about Tom Watson back in 08 at Birkdale, 08 or 09 at Birkdale.
Yeah.
I mean, how old was he? 59?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no, he was 59. He was 59, and again, he had not been ravaged physically by the things that Tiger has. Look, I will not be surprised if he does amazing things, but the winning part to me, I will be gobsmacked if he wins another golf tournament. At
Pleasantly gobsmacked.
Pleasantly.
I said Birkdale. It was Turnberry.
Turnberry.
Yeah. Stuart Sink.
Yeah. The last thing about him is, like, we talk about these happy haunts that he has, and I get it, the Bay Hills and the Memorial, but the style with which he did what he did on those places, as he did at Firestone for all those years, I don't know that he would be willing to make a transition to a harbor town, but he's such a tactician now, and the reliance on not hitting driver, and he's still a sublime iron player. I do believe that if he turned up at Sawgrass, where he does not have to hit driver all over that yard, that he could be as competitive at those places where it's point to point as opposed to some of the other places.
That's such a good point, too, because major championship golf courses have, 7,500 yards is now a fairly benign setup. I mean, they're getting longer and longer and longer, and over the course of these next few years, I mean, Quail Hollow is 7,650 from the tips. And I mean, they're getting longer and longer and longer. Harbor Town is an incredible point. How fun would that be to watch him hit little stinger 2-irons around that place and hooks? And I mean, he would... Shaping,
height,
flight, all of it.
I'll take his word for it about the one birds and the total yardage. I don't even look back there.
We don't even have that number on the card, or do we put T markers out there?
I don't even look back there. I love that idea at Harbor Town, Gary, and I do wonder, as Tiger is taking such an interest in the future of the PGA Tour, and he's become so passionate as one of the lead spokesmen for the PGA Tour. I wonder if that all of a sudden enters his mind that hey, you know what, as I'm gone through trying to protect this tour that I love so much, that's given me so much, maybe I will go instead of playing at a tournament that I traditionally played in and play in this one instead if he's healthy enough to do it. I'd love to see it. And that place of all places makes all the sense in the world.
Is it an elevated event?
This year it is.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the week after the Masters. That'd be kind of tough.
It would be tough. It would be tough. It was just more of a hypothetical look. When he went to Wyndham in 2015, again, it's not a golf course you hit driver on all the way around.
It's a great place for him to play.
He finished in the top 10 that week. Anyway, I look, however often he does play, which is not going to be much, he's still going to win the player impact program. He's going to win that in perpetuity, by the way. And he should.
But
it's an annuity for him.
I was sitting on the board when we did that player impact program.
Yeah.
It was a direct response to Liv just getting started, and they wanted us to put some language into the bylaws, ban for life. We were like, hold up, first meeting of the year, we're just hearing this now, we're not doing that. And they came up with the player impact program, and there was a minimum number of events played. I think since Tiger's gotten injured, they've kind of pulled that minimum number out from under the...
They've changed. Not only that, we had a call with the tour about all the different algorithms, and one of the things that we asked was, okay, being seen on television on the weekend of a PGA Tour event, does him doing an interview in the booth count? And the answer is, we don't know. The hell you don't. It counts. It counts. I mean, I look, him being at his event, him taking a vocal role with being a steward of this tour is why his value will never be diminished.
Right. And it won't. Shouldn't be.
No.
And it shouldn't be. Rory in Augusta National, if he's there like he put himself there like when it was over, he was there last year. And we've seen him do these odd things where it's a flyer Sunday and he does what he does and he's as capable as anybody of shooting zero. What about him and the Holy Grail, the Rubicon that he's got to cross?
You know, all the great clubs, I always say this about Rory McIlroy as it relates to Augusta National, all the great clubs in this world invite their members to join. If Augusta National could ever invite someone to win the Masters, they would invite Rory McIlroy.
Correct.
I mean, it is the love affair that place has with him and vice versa. He was there with his dad 2 weeks after he did that, by the way. He went back and played and stayed and hung out with members, and he loves that place, and he has become so deeply connected to the membership there. He's beloved everywhere he goes, but he certainly is beloved there. I would say what Rory McIlroy is about to experience in April is similar to what Dale Earnhardt Jr. experienced for almost 20 years in NASCAR. He is going to play a home game every time he tees it up. And he's been doing that to a degree, but it's only going to be heightened in 2023, especially at Augusta National. Everyone wants to see him win that. This is, the 9th straight year he's tried to complete the career Grand Slam. I would say the pressure on him to do so is higher than it's ever been to do it. The one concern I have is how much Rory thinks about those things. As talented as he is, as great as he is, and it would almost be impossible to not think about it, but I do wonder if that kind of cost him a shot or two out there.
But I think what he's been able to do since the Canadian Open, and he's been so outspoken about Liv and about the PGA Tour, and he's on the policy board, and he has been the front man, and he's gone on to win how many times? The Tour Championship, Canada, CJ Cup. Mm-hmm. I think he's prepared himself for what he's done with the pressure that he's going to feel for the Masters, and I think he is going to win, and I think he's going to win convincingly. I think he's going to be there from start to finish. I think he is
this year.
I'm in. Let's do it.
He has like what he's done and the load he's carried all summer through the fall with Liv and PGA Tour, I think has just prepared him to be able to handle that pressure because he's done it at a level that he's never done it at before, and he's won convincingly multiple times. I just have a feeling about him.
You're right. I mean, all of that extra weight seemed to empower him on the course. The one pushback I would have is I went to the Open Championship, and he was stuck in neutral the last 10, 11 holes, and I do wonder if that gets in his head.
It does.
A little bit, yeah.
It has to.
But everyone, and being there on the property, you could it was the ultimate home game. Everyone wanted to see it. It was no everybody was, Cam, well played.
Of course.
There's no disrespect to Cam Smith. He went out and won the Open Championship. I wonder if that plays a role at all at Augusta National. But let me make this clear. I hope Johnson's right, because that would be such a celebrated moment in golf.
For sure.
For him to put on a green jacket. It would be All of golf would celebrate that, and people that are casual fans don't even follow the sport closely would enjoy it too.
Especially this year with everything that's going on, I think it would just make it even. It would be one of the most iconic major championship wins.
It would be
relative history.
No, in all time. You mentioned, it's now 9 years with his chance to do it. It's also 9 years since he last won a major. So it's not just the vortex getting thicker as it relates to how many chances he has in prime at Augusta National. The Open Championship at the home of golf, with all that was going on, with the belief that the guy who was the protagonist was the guy who was getting ready to leave himself, and he couldn't shake it off the blade and make anything in that last round. And look, with all due respect to Gene Sarazen, retroactively he won the career Grand Slam there. But the best line I ever heard is associated to that win in 35 was Brandel Chambly. He won the equivalent of the Hero World Challenge in 1935, which is a hell of a line. He's going there. This is to complete the career Grand Slam at Augusta National with, and it wouldn't have been the old course, it just would have been his 5th major, is something nobody has had to tackle. And everybody knows he's as capable as anybody. If he does, it'll be one of the greatest feats, not only because of the totality of winning the career Grand Slam and doing it there in the modern age with the amount of attention and the buildup and the knowledge of him knowing that. He isn't working with Bob Rotella by accident. He's trying to get his mind in a place to allow him to do something which is just suffocating to think about.
It is really challenging, and I hope Johnson's right that it happens this
year. I hope
year.
it is. I hope he is too.
And I would bet a tremendous amount of money that in the next 10 years it happens. But he's going to your point, he's going to have to face that each and every time he goes there.
So do you think he'll win another major before he wins the Masters?
I probably would be more inclined to bet that.
I would too. I would too. But it's not, again, that place is built for him.
Right.
It's built for him. But
Gary, he finished.
You got as much as we say that from tee to green, you got to shake these 6-footers in that have movement to them when it matters.
He had a chance. He shouldn't have won the Masters. He should have finished second last year.
Correct.
And he did.
Correct.
He walked off the golf course in Tulsa and he was furious. I've never seen him with that much steam in his ears. He felt like he blew the PGA Championship. He felt like he had every chance to win the U.S. Open, and he certainly felt like he lost the Open Championship. To that point, this guy's got a chance in every major championship.
He does.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's again, and the one last thing about him and Augusta National, he can't be a regular member unless he wins that golf tournament. He's not going to accept a membership there.
No.
He's not going to live his life as a regular member and not have a green jacket from winning it. Isn't that weird? It's
I like that, though.
I love it too, but that's just a reality. I mean, you'd be like, come on, it's just a golf tournament.
I
We love this
assure you
place.
he has plenty of opportunities to play there without
Well, he does.
wearing the jacket to dinner on a Saturday night.
Will Tiger ever be a regular member at Augusta National?
I could maybe see that
Would
happening.
he need to be?
No, but I mean, Jack and Arnold.
Yeah,
Arnold was and Jack is.
they are. Yeah. The reason I hesitated is because 5 years ago I would say absolutely not. That just is not his cup of tea.
I'm with you.
He wouldn't connect. But in the last few years, he has started to develop so many more relationships
I agree.
in the game, not just with players, but with powerful people in the game. I wouldn't surprise me if he did.
I think he will be. He will be a ceremonial starter. Who he's on that first tee with in 25 years, I have no idea.
Bubba?
Phil?
That's a hard no. Look, his future, I have him on this list of things to get to. I don't want to touch on him right now. I don't know if we have time for him today anyway. Let me ask you about Spieth and Thomas. Who will have a bigger year?
I'm going to go Spieth. I know that might be a bit of a surprise because, and part of the reason why I'm so quick to say Spieth is because I've been saying Thomas for the last a few years, and I still think that Justin Thomas is one of the better players in all of golf. But Jordan Spieth is, for my money, the best closer that we have that plays golf regularly on the PGA Tour. I guess the one caveat would be Tiger, if Tiger was healthy enough to play. But of all those that are teeing it up frequently, I think he's the best closer that is out there, including Justin Thomas. And I feel like Jordan, with what we witnessed in the last few months of 2022, has found a tremendous amount of confidence. What we saw here in Charlotte was the best of Jordan Spieth.
Right.
And we have seen Jordan Spieth play 2-3 rounds of great golf in the last couple of years and overcome some demons. I think 2023 is going to be a huge year for him.
Married, kid,
Yeah.
life is kind of settled and in order. He's hitting the ball so far right now. When he came out,
Yeah.
he hit it plenty far, but he has gained some
He's
distance.
got pop.
And seeing it
Yeah.
firsthand
Yeah,
in
you
Charlotte,
walked with him, yeah.
It was crazy watching how far, and even when they played that little Capital One thing down at Pelican, like, and some of those ball speed numbers may have been off, but he is pounding the golf ball. He's
Yeah.
hitting it further than a lot of guys, and I think that's going to help him in the long run. His wedge game is second to none. Now his putting is streaky, and his short putting
Is skittish.
I wish he'd go back to where he looked at the hole and putted that
Yeah,
way.
he did it for a reason.
And I just, if he can get that putter back to somewhat the form of 15, I see him having a chance at winning multiple
Are you
majors.
going JT though?
No. I'm huge fans of both of them,
Yeah.
but Jordan Spieth replaced Freddie Couples as my favorite golfer of all time. I love Jordan Spieth. He is the man. He's a good man. I think he's incredible.
Yeah.
Playoff companion at Houston. by the
Yeah,
way.
and we played a little poker together a couple times. I'm a big fan.
And,
He's a
and by the way,
humble guy.
that's not a that's
No,
not
it's just-
saying that
look,
Justin
it's
Thomas
just-
isn't going to have a great year. No, yeah, absolutely. But I think both of them are going to have big years. Justin Thomas, remarkably, has only won once last year. It was the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does something similar to that in 2023. He wins a huge event, and we look back and say, wow, he only won once or twice. But I would take Spieth in 23.
I'm with you. And again, I think they'll both have wonderful years. They're both going to win. The thing about Spieth, going back to the Open, he made nothing that week and hit it so good.
Yeah.
And when you talk about guys in their prime, like where they're going to always be good, I think he'll be great at Hoylake. I think he has a very good chance at LA North. You're right about the pop in his bat. He is an elite ball striker. For all the talk about, well, he hits a lot of foul balls. No, actually, he really drives it exceptionally well now. And he drives it long enough. If he can just be reliable, not even just making all these road maps like he did 8 years ago, just make all these 5-footers, man. Not even 5-footers, like 3-footers. That's weird. That's
what really sets him apart, though, is his wedge game. Remember
and chipping.
Yeah.
He's a witch.
And he just, like, of course, like LA North, I think, is going to bring
He's
out
gonna
his
love
event.
it.
He's going to love it. But at the President's Cup, they were playing alternate shot, and on number 4, Justin Thomas fatted it off the tee to a spot I don't think I've ever seen Will Calder at before. And it was that front
Will
pin.
Calder drop.
And Spieth hit that wedge to like 2 feet, no green to work with from the beginning of the par 3 fairway. I think he had to like pace off a number to get the actual number, but I just love his wedge game. And I think even if he does hit foul balls, he can get the ball back in position and get it up and down at a clip that is better than any of the top players.
Totally agree. Some people are like, well, I don't get that comparison. I've always compared him to Ray Floyd. He's very unorthodox. Everything from his grip to his golf swing. But he's an athlete, and Floyd was a baseball player like Jordan was. The closer he gets to the hole, the bigger advantage he's got. My God, the way that he can hit shots from 40 yards and in, he has the best intuition. He's the best reader of lies that I've ever seen. Hit it out of a divot, hit it out of a buried lie in a bunker, snarly Bermuda lie, thick Kentucky bluegrass, doesn't matter. He'll read the lie. And that is what major championship golf is. It's eradicating wrongs because you're going to miss 25 greens.
I am fascinated to see where this Greller-Spieth relationship goes next, though, because
they made it through the abyss.
They
man.
made it through the abyss in 2022. My man here's had some awesome interactions with his brother on the golf course. They act like Johnson and TJ Wagner do on the golf course.
They do. They've been so close for so long. They've
Yeah.
battled. When you battle with someone for that long, you have a different sort of relationship. And I don't think Greller takes offense to it.
No.
He just knows what kind of a competitor he is.
He's an
and-
elementary school teacher.
Which, by the way, I think is the biggest key. Is it rolls off Michael's back, and that's important too.
Yes, absolutely.
It is. The year of 19 when he was really bottoming out, and I was totally obsessed with where he was, and I have 18 rounds that I have charted that I followed him every step, and they were Masters rounds, they were Players Championship rounds, they were the PGA Championship. He was paired with Brooks in the 3rd round. He somehow finished 3rd that week.
Yeah.
and hit it like dog shit for the whole week and finish third because he fights like hell. And again, he never gives up. And now, again, if he can just be reliable enough, I think I don't know that he can get back to world number one this year, but I expect him to have a great year. Give me a guy, Johnson, give me a guy who can win his first major this year.
I've got two, and they're both pretty obvious. Will Zalatoris, obvious. Actually, I've got three. Zalatoris has put himself there. What his health looks like remains to be seen. I haven't heard anything. I think Cam Young had a breakout year last year. He was in position to win 2 majors his rookie year at the PGA and at the Open Championship. I'm really looking forward to him. I think he's going to win his first PGA Tour event this year, and also I think he's got a chance to contend in more. And then the veteran that I will say is Tony Finau. I think Tony Finau, what he did into the summer, into the fall, the way he won that golf tournament in Houston this year, I think Finau's got a great chance. Good friend with his caddy, Mark Urbanek. They have worked so hard over the last year on his putting, the routines that he does. He's consistent. He works hard. He's got a good family. He doesn't have a lot of distractions. I think Tony Finau, who's never really competed in majors that much, I think has a chance to break out and win his first this year.
Yeah.
And one of the best people you'll ever meet,
no
too.
doubt.
And he openly has talked in the past about how much he has struggled in the last 9 holes of getting his mind right in those environments. I think he's clearly overcome that, and that would be a reason to believe in him. If I were to pick one guy that hasn't won a major, I would pick Cameron Young for the reasons he just mentioned. This guy's talent is Hall of Fame caliber. I mean, you watch the way that this guy attacks the golf ball, and you just think it's kind of like watching Rory McIlroy for the first time. You're just blown
Putter
away.
can be bulky.
It can, but I'm talking about the swing.
No.
There's something very different about him.
He's special.
I'll go with another guy since he took Young and Zalatoris. I'll take Tom Kim.
Wow.
Kim, I think, could win a major championship. You've already seen him on big stages perform very well. He's in a fight with Cantlay in Vegas, and he wins it. He obviously played so well here in the President's Cup. I think that Tom Kim is going to win major championships. Whether that happens this year or not remains to be seen, but if I'm going to pick one guy not named Young, I'll pick Kim.
I think you will be challenged at the first 2 because Augusta tends to be softer than firmer. Rochester is not going to be firm. I can tell you that right now. It'll be a hell of a layering contest in Rochester. I'm looking forward to that Cashmere week. But I do think that if LA North is crispy, look, he's got to fight the distance in the game. And I had not only the President's Cup, but at the CJ Cup, he was paired with Ricky and Rory the first 2 rounds. They were dropping mail on him. I'm talking about Ricky dropping mail on him. He doesn't hit bad iron shots. He hits it in the middle of the face like every single swing. I think he's a special talent. Let me give you 2 names that neither one of you mentioned either one of them. Like, how about Patrick Cantlay and what about Xander Schauffele?
I wonder as time goes on if it gets in your head in a major championship would be the 2. And those are obvious choices because they're 2 of the best 10 players in the world, especially with Cantlay. I'm a little surprised at his major championship record.
It's not great.
Yeah.
And the times that he's gotten there, like even, look, there was a litany of guys who kind of retreated with Tiger in 19. He was the first among them. He was the furthest along in that final round. And then it was Koepka, Molinari, and Finau.
I love Xander and his dad, Stefan, and the way that they yell and scream at each other is fun to watch. But some of the things that Xander has said to me coming off of the golf course at a major championship, well, let's see, I'm going to blow this one. And look, I mean, I guess we all say that about ourselves no matter what we do for a living.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just saying it, maybe he's a little more external about it in those moments, but it kind of has stayed with me a little bit that does he have to get over something himself? Talent-wise, he's got everything to win a major championship.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Cantlay hit some of the worst golf shots I've ever seen a professional hit, and I just wonder what that is. His short game is next level. Jamie Mulligan out in Long Beach, like that guy doesn't have pupils that do not chip it incredibly well. But I don't see it out of Cantlay. Maybe not this year. I think he's extremely polished. I've just seen some really big misses out of him lately, and I don't know if he's got it coming down the stretch.
Does it make any sense? The more time goes on, the more it gets in your head a little bit.
Absolutely.
You think that's a factor?
Yes, 100% it is. And I mean, where were his biggest contentions in majors? Cantlay.
The Masters that Tiger won.
Yeah, 19.
In 19,
Yeah.
he had the lead coming off the 15th green.
Correct.
And he blew up the last few holes. Yeah, that would be the one.
And Xander, I remember him. It was his coming out party his rookie year at that place, Aaron Hills. But where is he? Has he been?
Well, he
Masters in 21.
Well, in the Open in 18, he actually outplayed Rory playing with him that weekend at Carnoustie. He's had more chances than Patrick has. They're both they're embedded around the top 10. They're as capable as anybody. Let me ask you one last guy. The Scheffler follow-up to 22. What will it look like?
Gosh, I'm not saying that it's going to be 5 years from now we're going to say, well, we were unfair to Jordan Spieth and the 2015 that he had can't ever be replicated, but
it wasn't being unfair. It was one of the greatest seasons of all time, and to say that he would never have a season like that again was not being unreasonable.
I think that's where I'm going with Scottie Scheffler.
Okay.
I expect him to be a great player, a perennial Ryder Cup, President's Cup caliber player, which is what he was before 2022.
Right.
That's what I expect for him moving forward. But I expect him to be one of the 10 to 15 best players in the world, not necessarily one of the top 1 or 2.
Okay.
And by the way, that's not because I think there's anything wrong with Scottie Scheffler. It's maybe we've always said this, Johnson, but I feel like the game has more top 10 caliber players right now that are all about the same than we've ever had before, and I just think things will even out a little bit.
Well, then, do you think you're going to see somebody have a Scottie Scheffler year? Like you think Cam Young could have a year like that, and then that would be
certainly
his
capable.
best career? But I just think Scheffler. I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. I think a lot of the common thing, talking with Kevin Kisner at the President's Cup, he's like, none of these guys party. I think they're so focused
Sorry,
on
Kevin.
jerks. He's like, I think all these guys are so focused. Like, I think Scheffler is so focused at what he's doing. When he speaks in interviews, he being number 1, winning the Masters, winning all those tournaments doesn't change the way he speaks about it. I think you could see Scheffler maybe not having the year he had over and over and over, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him win a major and have a couple other wins again this year. I mean, he has all the tools. He's a good putter. Love his swing. Love his mindset. He's got a great caddy on the back. Like, look at what that relationship with Ted did. I guarantee you, Scottie Scheffler is out in Kapalua right now, preparing the same way he did last year, thinking he can go out and have a better year than he did. I just think he's got a head on his shoulders that a lot of guys don't have. He's not content with where he is. It didn't change his life. I think Scheffler I think his career is going up, and I see him having 5 or 6 majors at the end of his career.
Wow.
I'm 45 years old. When I grow up, I hope I'm as mature as Scottie Scheffler is. I really admire his level-headedness.
You would not still be driving the Tahoe from college.
I have too much fun with my buddies on occasion. Scottie clearly
doesn't. You would have
doesn't.
a tricked-out pickup truck.
Scottie is so easy to be around. He is the same person he was before he was number 1 in the world. So I agree with what you said there. I guess to answer your question, though, if I had to pick one person to have a dominant year, it would be Rory McIlroy. That would be my pick. It wouldn't be Scottie Scheffler. But it doesn't mean that I don't think Scottie won't be a top 10 player.
Yeah. Okay. So give me a guy, whatever definition you want to use for leap. Who's going to have a leap year? Who's going to?
Can Sahith Theegala count?
Yes.
I think he's going to
they
win.
can all count.
I think he's going to win 2+ tournaments this year on the PGA Tour. So that to me would count as and be a Ryder Cupper.
Okay.
Winning a golf tournament on the PGA Tour is going to get harder and harder as you have all these best players playing these elevated events. But I'm looking, I did some work for the Houston Open week. This Taylor Montgomery, who's a rookie, I think the leap that he made all 7 cuts. 6 of the cuts he made were top 25s. This Taylor Montgomery, and the way he finished his Korn Ferry season last year was the same. Like, I think he has shown super consistency. I wouldn't be surprised, and it may not be an elevated event that he wins, but I think Taylor Montgomery is going to win a PGA Tour in his 2nd year.
I'll give you Davis Riley. He's right out of Central Casting, from where he went to school to all the incremental steps. I expect him to win. I think he'll be in the Ryder Cup conversation. Give me a Ryder Cup player on each side that hadn't been on a team before. Let's start with Europe. Give me a guy who will be a rookie on the European side.
Easy one for me there because he just won where they're playing the event.
Yeah.
Bob McIntyre. I'm going to take him to be there.
I like the name Bobby McIntyre. He sounds like a guy who's like a 1.2 at Winged Foot. He's in investment banking with Goldman Sachs.
You know, the Højgaards are some others to think of, but I'll go McIntyre on the European team, especially since he just won in Italy. Like that guy got a lot. He's got a ton of games. So
Yeah.
that'd be my European pick.
I had a glass of white wine with Luke Donald following a miscut in Bermuda.
Of course it was white.
We were at the
Regal.
we were at the airport lounge, and I was talking to him about the Ryder Cup and if he thinks there's going to be an Italian player on the team, and he mentioned this young kid Guido Migliozzi.
Yes,
Yeah, he's going to be my rookie. I think they've got to have an Italian on that team.
Yeah, the Hogards, how can one of them not be on the team?
Yeah.
I think.
Speaking of Italians, it's kind of like the Molinaris were when
Yes.
they first came out. Yeah, you know, the flying Molinaris, now it's the flying Hoygards. I'm actually going to pick Frankie to be the Italian over Migliozzi. I'm going to go Frankie.
He will wake up the echoes.
I think he's going to wake up the echoes this year. He's not a first-time player, obviously. He's got no one has ever done what he did in a Ryder Cup. I guess Dustin
Right.
Johnson in Wisconsin, but from the European side, what he did the last time they were on their soil was incredible.
Him moving to LA is one of the sneaky, underrated
How
moves
about
of
that?
all time.
It is wild. His game has not come with him. At least, let's maybe that changes in 2023. Americans already picked it. Thigala. That's my Ryder Cup rookie on the American
Okay,
side.
give me an American.
I'm going to beat a dead horse probably all year about this guy, Cam Young.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's great. And he did play a President's Cup. The other guy would be Will Zalatoris.
Yeah, he would be the guy.
I loved watching him watch the President's Cup. He was there for a day.
There's a handful of tour guys who were there just taking it in.
And he didn't. He
No,
was
he should have
hesitant.
been on the
he was
team.
hesitant to be there because he didn't
Yeah.
want to be a distraction. And then after he came there, he realized, man, this is. I have to come back for these. He runs hot. He is so fiery, so competitive. Anybody that walked with Will Zalatoris for 18 holes would immediately become a fan of this guy. Just
Yeah.
the way he competes. It's going to be fun to watch him tee it up in those events.
I played with him in Dallas a couple of years ago. It was Sunday, and he is the fastest walker you've ever played golf with. Like, he's running ahead of me, and I'm like, hey, I want to talk. Come back, come back. But, like, watching him play a Ryder Cup match and just singles matches and just setting, he set the pace of our group that day. And so I think he is going to be a great match play player, and especially a Ryder Cup President's Cup team, because if I was the captain, I would put him out first in every group and just set the tone like, this is the pace we're going to play today. And I think it takes a lot for a player to kind of rein that back and be like, I'm not going to let you dictate. I think his pace of play dictates a lot.
He also, no disrespect to Scottie Scheffler, but he will have a few beers with you, by the way, Willie Z.
Yeah, I here's the thing about the American side, and I'll ask you whether they win or not in Rome. This is a must-have.
Yeah.
This is 30 years now. And this core group, which doesn't have a lot of scar tissue, these guys with these natural pairings are building a resume of winning. They have to win this, don't they?
There's so much turnover each time, Gary, that I don't think they carry all of that with them as much as we talk about it.
No,
I think
what they're carrying is more winning.
Exactly.
The Spieth,
And
Thomas,
that team that we
Cantley,
watched,
Finau.
that team
yes,
we
Schauffele.
the team we watched at Quail Hollow, which will mostly be intact by
Yes.
the time you get to Italy. Then 3 or 4 guys might change, but mostly the core of the team will be intact. I don't know how you stop them.
You don't. And to that point, like, what has PGA of America or European Tour said about the European Ryder Cup team? Are guys like...
They haven't yet.
Yeah, so, I mean, but think about like Westwood and
just their involvement.
and their involvement. And so I think...
Poulter, Westwood, McDowell, Garcia. It's a lot of guys.
It's a lot of guys. It's their veteran
their family,
unit, and
yeah.
those were the guys that were doing all the winning for those 30 years.
Correct.
And so to not have that presence in the team room, whether it's in a captain, assistant captain role, I think is going to play a big difference. And like you said, what the Americans did at Whistling Straits and what they did at the President's Cup, they are going to hopefully be on this. You know, it's a freight train, and
It's a Rahm Rory challenge. Those two
Right.
are the anchors of the European team
Fleetwood,
through all this.
Fitzpatrick. I mean, they've got.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, for Rory, it goes back to 2010. And all those old Lions that are now not only not on the team as players, they might be out of the system altogether.
McDowell.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if some younger European players form a new chemistry that materializes in Italy, not so dissimilar to what we saw at the President's Cup with the international team, but I don't think it'll be enough to win.
Yeah, the hero event that they smartly created.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I think it's smart. I mean, to bring these guys, put them in the system, and allow them to get to know each other, play together, try to find some commonalities. The fact is, if the American team has to go to Adair Manor in 27,
Wow.
Where's that?
That's in Ireland.
In the
Okay.
Yeah.
western part of Ireland, yes.
yeah, They've got to have this one. All right, last couple of things before I get you out of here with these 5 quick questions. Will somebody in their give me a guy in your vintage who will win on the PGA Tour this year?
Johnson Wagner. I think Snedeker is going to come back. I think he's been battling some injuries, going through some caddy changes. Brant works very hard. He's a good friend. I think I see Brant winning.
I love that pick, by the way. He has been injured, and so I wonder maybe what the second half of 2023 will look like. This is going to be a crazy pick, but I've been thinking about this for a few months because Stewart Cink won 2 events in his late 40s.
Yeah.
Stewart Cink's best friend on the PGA Tour is the captain of the American team this year, Zach Johnson.
With all on his plate, he will jump up.
I think that's one of the things I love most about the PGA Tour is something that no one expected happening. And I hope in non-elevated events we get some stories where you have some older players in their 40s that have won major championships that all of a sudden are contending in these events. So I'll go with Zach Johnson.
Okay, I will drop a Ryan Palmer on you.
Does everything but win.
And you know what? I would expect it. He's in the field at Sony.
Yeah.
He has a very good record there. I think it could happen early. That would be it. All right, let me get you out of here with these questions. Different perspectives as a player and as an announcer. What is the most underrated stop, all things considered, on tour?
John Deere.
John Deere.
The John Deere, the fans, and I say this with the most passion possible. I loved Omaha on the Korn Ferry Tour. The town came out, and it felt like just such a good community. John Deere captures the essence of a high-level Korn Ferry event, just from the way the town, the whole community gets behind that event for the week. You can't go anywhere in a John Deere Kersey car and not have someone come up and be like, I was out there the other day and saw you play. John Deere is the most underrated event on the PGA Tour.
Great salads, I hear, in Moline, Illinois.
Underrated. Is Harbortown underrated? Like, I love that event, and I love the vibe of it. It's the perfect after Masters event.
Agreed.
And I think that town embraces the exact feel that it has. I love that event. I love going to it. It's the best place to decompress. It's going to feel different, though, as an elevated event. I wonder if there's a little more tension in the air than there typically has been in the past. But I love going to that.
Yeah, it's special. Travelers, to me, in the fact that they got designated status is representative of all the work they've done over the last decade, building relationships, betting on future assets, giving exemptions to guys who you go, why is Patrick Cantlay in this field? I don't know, build some loyalty with a guy who we think is going to be really good. That area, first of all, the Northeast is bereft of having tour events, so they go there. It's right after the U.S. Open. It's golf season in the Northeast, where you have some time spent growing up. I think Travelers.
It's a great pick.
I played with Patrick Cantlay in the final group Saturday when he was an amateur. He had just shot 60. And we played together Saturday in the last group of that event, and I became a fan of him ever since.
Did he know your reputation?
As far as?
That's an open-ended.
He had no clue who I was.
All of the above.
Yeah, no clue.
The 1B answer to this question would be the RBC Canadian Open, and it's because of what you said. It moves around, and it feels like a national championship because they go to different places, and it is turned into such a festive event. I love how they go around to different places.
St. George's last year
which was fantastic.
It was fantastic. It felt like a major championship the way the rough was. It was great.
No doubt. All right, who will, you mentioned Bethpage, who will it be in 25?
This the captain of the team?
Yeah.
Tiger Woods.
He will be the captain.
He'll be the captain.
Who will be the captain for Europe? This is not just a one-off, easy American answer.
Now you got me thinking here. And I might need to call a lifeline.
Very challenging.
2025. Is it obvious?
I don't think it. No, I think it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because
once you
all
get
these
past
guys
McDonald,
who were lined up.
All these guys. That's the one thing is
it was Poulter's to me. It was Poulter's to.
Which would have been perfect there because he would have embraced the villain role and pounding his chest.
I'm afraid he would have gotten bludgeoned by somebody throwing a 24-ounce Bud Light and hitting him in the crown.
It'll be interesting to see if these guys are eligible to play, but I don't think they'll ever be a captain because of the choice that they've made. And
so that really changes the lineup of candidates.
It totally changes it. Yeah, I'd have to go off the grid to think of who would that be.
I can't even. I'm glad they didn't ask me first. have no idea.
I don't think there's an answer. I
Darren
really.
Clark?
Do you bring him back?
I mean, yeah,
Well,
I
that's
think-
the thing. Like, Davis Love, they brought back. Are they
Yeah.
going to have to start doing that with a few guys? Paul McGinley or Darren
Yeah.
Clark. And Davis Love's been brought back several times to be.
Would Padre get another swing at the plate off a loss back in America at a place where there's nowhere he would go that he wouldn't be embraced?
Yeah.
I think it's an impossible question to answer on the European side. I think Tiger's the guy. Do you agree with that at Bethpage?
I completely agree. It's got to be Tiger.
See, I think it was Phil's, and even though Tiger's the one who won at Bethpage, it's his whenever he wants it. But I think but the other thing is like Tiger in Ireland with him and his, I don't know. I think he's going to do Bethpage.
If he wants it, he will do it.
Okay.
And I could see a scenario where he may not be ready for it. He's been asked to be the president of teams before, and he hasn't felt like it's been at the right time. But I think it'll be his to turn down.
Okay, give me a first-time winner this year.
Cameron Young.
That hasn't won a tournament yet.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to pick anybody, that's the obvious choice,
Yeah.
right? That has not won a tournament
Correct.
on the PGA Tour, Cameron Young.
Okay.
You going Davis Riley?
Yeah. I will take Davis Riley. All right. Who is the best interview in golf who's not currently in the top 10?
I could spend several hours with Kevin Kisner because he has no fear about. He is an open book. He is as genuine with a red light on the air as he is when it's off. He's so refreshing, and he always tells the truth. So I love getting
great.
that kind of candor from
He's
Kevin
great.
Kisner.
The name is blanking in my head right now, but the guy that wears the bucket hat, Joel Damon.
Yeah. Oh, he's
Yeah.
great. He is
Joel Damon.
He's terrific too.
He's terrific. You know who I think has shown, not that he wasn't thoughtful, but a curiosity, and when time allows, not 5 minutes, like 30 minutes, is Adam Scott. I think Adam Scott is a really good conversationalist.
He's introspective. He pays very good attention to what you're asking him, and he is where his feet are. I think a lot of times when you're being put through a car wash of interviews, like so many of these guys are, it's very hard for them to focus. I think all of us would struggle with that. He is terrific at that. He is where his feet are anytime you talk to him.
And so happy. It was rumored forever that he was going to live.
Yeah.
And I just can't praise him enough for the decision he made, because Norman was putting so much pressure on those Australian guys like Leishman and Cam and Matt Jones, and for Adam Scott to stay was a huge win for the PGA Tour.
He's a really important figure for the President's Cup going forward. I mean, he's going to captain the team whenever he chooses to.
And he also his selection for the over 40 winner would be another selection for one of the best interviews. Sneds is fantastic.
He's great. He's great. I would imagine if he wants to, that television could be something he entertains down the road. All right, last one. Maybe the hardest one for you to answer. It's the last book you read.
I'm reading it right now, Boys from Biloxi. It's terrific. It's the new John Grisham book, and I'm, as a child of that area.
You're a fictionalist.
From being from Mobile, Alabama, and here, these are fictitious stories, but it's not far-fetched to me that there'd be that kind of criminal activity in Biloxi.
Do you see yourself in one of the characters?
No comment.
Empire of the Summer Moon. It's about the Comanche Indian tribe. I'm Native American. I'm Chickasaw. I'm a tribal member, and it takes place around Amarillo, Texas, and kind of the whole central plains of the United States. And it was a fascinating book, and I learned a lot about Native American history that you never get taught, and how just vicious and violent both sides of the the settlers and the Native Americans. It was a brutal book, but I couldn't put it down. Read it in like 3 days.
Where is that? Is that on your mother's side or on your father's side? Really?
Mother's side,
And you've got Amarillo, Texas heritage too.
I do. Well, I'm born and raised.
Yeah.
Both parents too. And my kids, my wife is, she's where the Anglos met the Saxons. She's very white. Both my kids look just like her. Very fair
Same
skin,
here.
fair hair, and just got their Native American cards like a month ago. So it's pretty funny.
How cool is that?
It's pretty funny that you look at them and you would never expect that they have any Native American heritage. But yeah.
Your schedule for Golf Channel, when will we see your mug on television?
Sony Open Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah, pregame,
Past
postgame.
champion.
Yep, pretty excited to be there. It's going to be
You
fun.
and Cara Banks anchoring pre and post?
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very happy for you. I know it's
Same.
going to be a great year for you. How about you? When are you on the road next?
I'm going to the Amex with him in a couple of weeks. That's my first one in Palm Springs. I'm taking some deep breaths after a busy, active football season and seeing your Vanderbilt Commodores on several occasions. But
They've got Big Mo on their side.
January is not going to be as active for me, thankfully. But February, I don't think I spend a day in Charlotte, which will be kind of crazy. Be it the Waste Management WM Phoenix Open, and then also out at the Genesis as well. Spend some time at the Super Bowl that week. That's going to be a crazy month for me. I'm excited about golf in 2023. I think the fact that we get to watch so many big events with all the best players on the PGA Tour is going to be something that all consumers of the game of golf enjoy, and I'm excited to document it.
The viewers and listeners want to know, what's your LA rota for golf that week of Genesis?
I think I might have to do some research.
Bel Air.
We do have some friends that have taken home some hardware at LA
Hillside.
Country Club that have promised to help me out there.
Of course.
But LA Country Club, if Mr. Nost needs a partner that's going to give him 7, 8, 9 shots from whatever tees they're playing, then I will be happy to join him at Bel Air Country Club. But the one place I must see, because I've never seen it, is LACC, and I must do some.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet.
I have to do some research for the US
Yes, you
Open.
do.
Wilshire, though, Wilshire's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is. Then the pro out there, that is one of the coolest experiences in LA. You see the Hollywood sign. Have you played Wilshire?
I have not.
Oh, and they redid it maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Me and my caddy Matt played right after the
LPGA
renovation.
event they have there, it looks awesome.
It's awesome,
And
and it's not
literally-
so big. It's
Right. Those places, it's going to be incredible to see how they do the U.S. Open, literally in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
The golf course is off the charts great.
I can't wait.
Yeah. And by the way, thank you for green lighting 5 clubs on Sirius XM. We're excited about our debut on January 10th. And looking forward, hopefully you guys will swing by throughout the year. Really appreciate the friendships, but also your thoughts on the game. It's going to be a fun year.
It is indeed.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, Gary, to be here with you and your terrific team. Anytime you need us, I certainly will be willing to come here. It's great to talk shop with you guys.
Me too.
Well, we appreciate Johnson Wagner, Taylor Zarzour, most importantly, all of you out there for watching this 5 Clubs conversation. We'll see you next week.